everyone, welcome back to Dancing Fingers. Today's video is the second half of my discussions on how to play Chopin's music artistically. In my last video, I focused on rubato, which is about the timing and the rhythm. Today, we're going to explore on the sound, the tone, and different types of touches. By the way, if you haven't seen part 1, make sure you check the link below in the description box so that you will get the whole picture. The first idea I would like to talk about today is voicing. You probably hear this term very often because it is used in many different areas. For piano technicians, it is a technique that they use to regulate the tone quality for the piano. When it comes to piano playing, voicing means when you have 2 or more notes to play at the same time, you should emphasize on the melodic notes. Usually they are the top notes in right hand, and you need to play them louder than the other notes. Some of you might say, "Oh, I know that. That's not new." But let me share with you my own story. So before I moved to the US, I had about 5 different piano teachers back in China. 3 of them were professors at the conservatory. None of them has ever taught me anything about voicing. It was after I moved to the US and started my training at Northwestern University, my wonderful mentor, Dr. Silva Wang, taught me that in our very first lesson. I remember I was playing Chopin, the second sonata in B-flat minor. Dr. Wang quickly noticed all my chords were not clear, so she demonstrated to me how to voice the chords. It was mind-blowing because once you know the idea and start applying it to every interval and chord, immediately your sound gets so much better and clearer. So later when I started teaching, I tried to make sure that all my students get to learn how to voice the chords properly. Now it's time for some musical examples. Today, let's start with a Chopin waltz. This is a lovely waltz, and I teach it very often. It's in C-sharp minor, opus 64, number 2. Let me show you a little bit. Such a fun piece to play, and the middle section is so beautiful. That's my favorite part. Okay, so at the beginning, the right hand has a series of intervals. So the first thing is we should look at where the melody is. In this case, they're all on the top. Okay, so almost every student I has taught this piece to has struggled with these two measures. And later, very similar. Well, it's very understandable because first of all, in those two measures, the rhythm is a little tricky because you have a very short 16th rest in the middle. And then also you need to play a grace note. Now, to make the things even more complicated, you have to use the thumb to play all of the lower notes. So as a result, this is what I hear all the time from my students. Or, it's very heavy and you can barely hear the melody. This is what I suggest my students to do to fix this. So instead of looking at these intervals vertically, let's try to look at them horizontally, as if they were two separate voices. And the first thing you can practice is just play the top note, just play the melody, and then try to make them louder and play them as clear as possible. Okay, and then after you practice a couple times, let's move on to the lower voice and you will be using these two fingers mostly, so the second and the thumb, and then try to make those notes as light and soft as possible. Things like that. After you practiced a couple times for each voice, you can start putting all of the notes back together and see if you can still hear the melody clearly. So this is a very good way to practice voicing, but I have to tell you, it's not easy. It's more advanced way of playing. So the more basic way to play is to play all of the notes equally. Let's say if you're playing C major scale, you can start from slower speed right? You try to make every note exactly the same, very even. But voicing is completely the opposite. Voicing is you intentionally play notes unevenly in order to make the melody stand out. And that involves your ears, your mind, and even your heart, because you have to feel it. You have to know where the melody is or what notes you want to bring out. So it's an art. Now I would like to show you another piece. And this is not Chopin, but I think most of you know this piece really well, so you can clearly hear how voicing can greatly improve your sound. It's Clair de Lune by Debussy. atmosphere. Despite I'm playing extremely quiet at the beginning, you can still hear the melody very well, right? Well, that's because I voiced every interval and chord. For example, at the beginning, I played my fourth finger louder than my second finger. And by the way, this is my fingering at the beginning. I'm using 2-4. And then the next note I go to 1-2. I've seen students sometimes using 3 and 5 on the first chord and then going to 1-3. Well, in general, I don't like the combination of 3 and 5 for a very simple reason. Because when you put your longest and shortest finger together, it's not the most flexible, okay? You don't have the best control of that. So whenever possible, I always try to avoid that combination. This is why I'm using 2 and 4, and I feel much comfortable with that. So you can try this fingering, and then try to make your fourth finger louder. And then same thing with the next one. You really have to try and make this, the shorty, the very strong thumb as quiet as possible. And then when we get to the second page, it's exactly the same. You have to play the right hand, the pinky, much louder. In fact, it's not just the right hand. The left hand, you also have to voice. Because Debussy actually put many short lines below the notes. Those are called tenuto, and basically two meanings. Tenuto, one is you have to hold the note for its full value. So in this case, that means you have to play as legato as you can. And the second meaning is you have to slightly emphasize on those notes. So that's part of the melody as well. And then when you put the other notes together, that's how it should sound. To me, playing without voicing is like a camera lost its focus. So your object becomes very blurry and the melody just gets lost completely. So if you ever wondered why I just don't sound like what I hear on the recording, what am I missing? There you are. It's the voicing. Make sure you always bring out the melody as clear as possible. Last but not least, I would like to share with you an idea that is not only interesting but also crucial to artistic playing. Let's explore different types of touches, such as flat fingers versus curved fingers. If you have taken piano lessons as a child, then you probably remember this is the hand position you were taught at the very beginning, right? Nice curved fingers, and your teachers probably told you, pretend you are holding an egg, or the side of your hand should look like a letter C. Well, this is a very basic hand position. The point of doing it is you can then start developing a habit of playing with fingertips. Why fingertips? Well, at the early stage of the piano studies, you'll be playing a lot of scales, arpeggios, and easy chords. Later, you might move up to sonatinas by Clementi, Kuhlau, and some easy pieces by Bergmüller, and perhaps some Czerny etudes as well. playing with fingertips is perfect for all the pieces I mentioned above because curved fingers tend to produce a more precise, rhythmic, and crystal clear tone. I would say curved fingers work the best for pieces that have many fast-moving notes, such as Mozart sonatas. Often you have to play tons of 16th notes running up and down, like in this passage. You would have to have very strong and solid fingertips to achieve great clarity. But when it comes to romantic music, if you only play with curved fingers, that's not going to work. Remember the nocturne I played in the Valentine's Day video? Fingertips just won't be able to give you that rich, deep, and warm singing tone. So now you need to flatten your fingers and use the flashy part of your fingers to play. And then also try to combine your wrist and arm to create a full and colorful sound. I also want to mention flat fingers are also perfect for impressionist music. Let me go back to Clair de Lune because it's such a great piece for demonstration. Let's do a sound comparison, shall we? I'm going to play the beginning 2 times and let's see if you can hear any difference. Okay, I'm going to stop here and let me try again. So this is the second time. What do you think? The first time, it almost sounds too clear to my taste. It just lost that foggy quality and the mystery that Debussy is known for. Versus the second time, I don't know if you have noticed, my fingers are moving more passively. And I feel like I'm just dusting the key, very gently. Because I voice the top note, so you can still hear the melody very clearly, but at the same time, it sounds very tender, as if the sound were coming from far away. By the way, if you like to play Debussy, you can try to use flat fingers in a lot of his pieces, such as Reverie or Arabesque, because they all have that dreamy quality. So try to play like this. I'm not playing, I'm actually just caressing the key. So you can try the same thing too. Set your fingers to caressing mode, and then you will have the perfect sound. Finally, here comes my conclusion. Artistic playing is like a woven tapestry. It involves a combination of things. In my lengthy two-part videos, I discussed rubato, voicing, and different types of touches. But I feel I'm only touching the tip of the iceberg. The rest is upon you. Your own imagination and exploration will take you to the next level. Happy playing! By the way, if there's any question that you want to ask me or anything you're interested in learning, please feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.